that one happens, is in real trouble.
Tonight on 48 Hours. A threat to your life you can't even see.
Most of the viruses that we're talking about here are readily infectious by just breathing in the air.
You die of blood clots and hemorrhages at the same time.
Deadly viruses emerging from the jungle.
We have to be aware that there are other viruses like AIDS out there, and that's what we're after.
New killers.
Ebola virus is a monster.
As close as your own backyard.
For the first time, this virus had literally been brought home.
There's a lot of hysteria right now.
Half the rats have hantavirus.
No vaccine.
People have been exposed. We feared the worst.
No treatment.
I would have been in the isolation ward.
No cure.
If you got sick, you could start measuring for the pine box. Things are out there.
Are we ready for the next plague?
I cannot imagine the kind of panic it's going to produce in this society.
Imagine a world where infectious disease has run amok, where there are no pills, no shots, no cures for lethal viruses spreading everywhere, where each of us is powerless against a terrifying killer. It sounds like a horror movie, but experts say that horror could come true, and soon. Why do we face this deadly new threat? Decades after the U.S. Surgeon General all but announced the end of infectious disease in this country? And what do we have to fight back? Tonight, we bring you some answers as we step out of the world we know and into the danger zone.
Down this hallway, behind these walls, are some of the world's deadliest killers. Killers with names like Marburg, Machupo, Houdin, and Ebola. They are newly discovered viruses. Viruses for which there's no vaccine.
These things that you've told me about are considered worse than AIDS?
Oh, yes.
No treatment.
Most of the viruses that we're talking about here are readily infectious by the aerosol route.
And no cure.
Just breathing in the air.
Peter Jarling is the senior research scientist here at the United States Army's Research Institute of Infectious Diseases, nicknamed USAMRID. Almost all of the most dangerous viruses Jarling studies were unknown 2 decades ago.
So this is the BL4 lab.
The most
yes.
lethal ones are only studied in a BL4 lab.
So these things are both highly contagious and often fatal.
That's correct.
BL stands for biosafety level.
That material probably contains about 10 to 100 million virus particles per milliliter.
And at USAMRID, level 4 is as high and as hot as it gets.
You've got hundreds of thousands of lethal doses of virus that you're holding in your hand.
You want to go in here and work. What do you have to do?
Okay, you go through the outer change room where you take off your street clothes, put on a scrub suit, put on your personal protective suit, or what we call a spacesuit. Enter the BL4 side through the spacesuit shower. There's a germicide or disinfectant in there, which is used to disinfect the outside of the spacesuit. Upon entering this area, you want to put on an extra layer of rubber boots, and you're good to go.
Look at that.
One of the nastiest BL4 viruses,
Man, they're loaded.
is Ebola.
Ebola virus is a monster. It's a true monster.
Author Richard Preston is writing a book on dangerous viruses, including Ebola.
It's a paradoxical condition where you both die of blood clots and you die of massive hemorrhages at the same time. I use the term biological meltdown.
Man, is that all extracellular?
Nancy Jacks, chief of pathology at USAMRIID, got the scare of her life while dissecting monkeys who had died of Ebola. Their blood was loaded with the virus.
I looked down and I had a big hole in my glove. So it was a scary thing.
Scary because days before she had cut herself on the palm.
You kind of feel this clenching in your stomach and you go, oh my.
The cut had not healed yet.
I would have been in the isolation ward.
The isolation ward is where she would have gone, most likely to die.
Okay, are they ready to go?
Around USAMRIID, it has a nickname.
All right, we're ready when they're ready.
The Slammer.
Why would they refer to it as the slammer?
Well, because we're going to lock them down physically and probably a little bit emotionally, because
Literally slamming them in here.
we're actually sealing the doors.
This is a demonstration of how the isolation team would handle a lab worker like Nancy Jacks or anyone else who is even possibly infected with a BL4 virus.
We would pick the person up, we would put them in the isolator, we would seal it.
Major Mark Byther heads the unit.
We would transport them through that port into this high containment area, into the waiting staff already in their blue suits.
As it turned out, Nancy Jacks was not infected, never had to go to the Slammer. The 20 cases that have been admitted were all false alarms. But experts warn, don't expect that luck to hold.
Things are out there. Things are going to happen.
Virologist Carl Johnson.
We're going to be so unprepared the day one of them lands on our shores and takes off that I cannot imagine the kind of panic it's going to produce in this society.
What if a virus appeared that was much more infectious than AIDS? How would it be handled? We couldn't possibly develop a vaccine for it in time. There would be no defense against it.
And if you get it, you're going to give it to me, just if I come into the same room with you. When that one happens, if that one happens, yeah, the human species is in real trouble.
Scientists say that day may be closer than they feared because of what they found in a suburb of Washington, D.C. That story when we come back.
Houses of yellow, lime, aqua, and blue. And the world's most friendly folk. As proud to show their true colors as a street they call Jelly Bean Road. Imagine that.
If cleaning your barbecue is really a grungy grind, it's time you tried Barbecue Grease Buster. After each use, once your barbecue is cooled, just spray on new 100% biodegradable Barbecue Grease Buster to dissolve charred and baked on grease without affecting the taste or quality of your favorite foods. Soon after, just a quick wipe and your grill, your accessories, and your whole barbecue become sparkling clean. With Barbecue Grease Buster, it's so much easier.
Today, more than ever, people demand quality at a good price. That's something the Bay can guarantee.
Save 50% on natural fill and synthetic pillows during the Bay's half-price pillow sale. White Goose Feather, Feather and Down, or the Bay's exclusive Comfaloft. And this White Goose Down duvet exclusive to the Bay, any size, $149.99.
Go ahead, make yourself at home.
Your better price advantage.
Thursday and Friday at the Brick. Take a year to pay with no interest, no monthly payments or down payment. This 3-piece oak queen-size wall bed includes headboard with mirror back and 2 clear end cabinets, only $10.98, and you don't pay for a year. This massive 3-piece oak entertainment wall system is just $16.98. And now at the Brick, introducing our new same-day 2-hour express delivery service. See our big 24-page catalog. It's like getting free furniture for a year. Thursday and Friday at the Brick.
The Children's Hospital Mother's Day Telethon is a celebration.
A celebration of children. Hi, I'm Monica Schneer.
And I'm Jim J. Bullock of Boogie's Diner. We want you to know you can be part of the celebration by showing your support for the Children's Hospital.
Help us bring the smiles back. Join the celebration.
Right here on Channel 11.
This is the place where the dawn breaks earliest. the new year comes soonest, where the Atlantic first meets the New World, the oldest city in North America, the far east of the Western world. Imagine that.
Anywhere. It happened in Anywhere, USA. Western Virginia. A nice place to live. Good schools, pricey homes, and Ebola.
Ebola is a virus, but not just any virus. A strain of it broke out in the winter of 1990 in this building in Northern Virginia. The building has been abandoned ever since.
People would panic if they knew what Ebola does to people. There would have been panic.
Most people never had heard of the Ebola incident until Richard Preston wrote an article for The New Yorker. 20th Century Fox now is making that report into a movie.
There's a sense of horror about this agent, this living thing, which can get into you. And when it does get into you, it does absolutely extraordinary things to the human body. You die in ways that are almost unimaginable.
The first outbreak of the virus came in 1976 near the Ebola River in Zaire.
Doctor, where is he?
He said that I take you.
HBO portrayed it this way in And the Band Played On.
You get a bad headache. Then you get sick to your stomach. Your blood begins to clot. Clots which lodge in your brain, lodge in your lungs, lodge in your intestines. And then the rest of your blood then becomes like the blood of a hemophiliac, loses its ability to clot, and streams out of all the orifices of your body, including your eyes, including the nipples of men. And so essentially your entire body becomes a kind of an oozing, melting mass of virus.
The African incident was the last time anyone saw Ebola until a shipment of monkeys like this one came to the U.S. in late 1989. The monkeys came from the Philippines and went to the Hazleton Research Primate Quarantine Unit in Reston, Virginia.
I got a call from this laboratory in Virginia. The veterinarian in charge said, I think I've got some simian hemorrhagic fever.
His monkeys were dying.
And his monkeys were dying.
When tissue samples arrived at USAMRIID,
This is a flask actually a little larger than the one we used.
Peter Jarling agreed with Hazleton's vet that they were probably dealing with a common monkey virus. He began some routine tests to make sure.
Since you thought this couldn't affect people, were you working at that point in the spacesuit?
No, we were not wearing a spacesuit. Well, I got a nice one for you right here.
To better study the virus, he tried to grow it in healthy cells.
These are just normal tissue culture cells.
But something went wrong.
In one of the flasks, we had something similar to what you see here. If you look closely, you can see there's some, call it gunk, floating in there. When we suspected that the flask was contaminated with bacteria, a common technique is to simply remove the top and to waft your hand over it like this. And there's a very pronounced smell of grape juice.
Grape juice?
Of grape juice.
And that signifies
common bacterium that slips past our antibiotics.
So you took a giant whiff of this stuff just to see?
Well, I wafted it past my face. I don't know how much I inhaled.
Once?
Maybe twice.
But there was no grape juice smell, and Jarling was puzzled.
I suppose in hindsight, they should have taken it directly into level 4, the spacesuits. But how could they have known? And this thing, the sample that came to them, hadn't killed anybody, came from a monkey, not a human being. There was no reason to think that it was a lethal virus.
Actually, as small as that section is that you see there, in that whole section, there could be billions of virus particles. Millions and millions, anyway.
Nancy Jacks was looking for what was wrong with the monkeys, too. But she was looking at pieces of tissue under an electron microscope.
Okay, and here you see one right here.
What?
This is a whole cluster of virus particles right here.
Scientists can photograph what the microscope sees.
In the middle of all this, finally you get a picture.
That's right, and the picture really scared us because it was clearly a filovirus. There's nothing else in the world that looks like a filovirus.
So filovirus, as you knew it then, included only viruses that essentially kill people.
Yes, that's correct.
I think the reaction was like throwing a rock into a bee's nest. That place went crazy. These people are military biohazard experts.
Wait a minute, okay.
They know what level 4 agents can do to people. And they were scared.
What was the atmosphere in that room?
Tense, very tense because we all recognized that we were at perhaps the beginning of a major outbreak of lethal disease in the United States.
So at that point, no one worked with the virus any longer outside of a BL4 lab wearing a spacesuit. Their tests soon confirmed Ebola.
I named Ebola. It didn't exist yet.
Carl Johnson is one of the only scientists in the world ever to actually see an outbreak of Ebola. He was in Zaire in 1976.
There was absolute fear and panic that Andromeda had finally occurred. It was close to 90% fatal. If you got sick, you could start measuring for the pine box right now. I have to say to you, I was shit scared.
For the first time, this virus had literally been brought home. And you got to realize there was a real sense of urgency here. We were working long hours well into the night. These monkeys, they were in airplanes, they were on trucks. A lot of people had been exposed. We thought that if we could get on top of this quickly, we might be able to contain an outbreak.
Did you expect an outbreak at that point?
We feared the worst.
You go, oh. I mean, that's pretty heavy.
And something else was adding to their fear.
What made it clear in Reston that this could go through the air?
Well, animals were continuing to die. It was continuing to be spread, and there was no other way for it to get it.
And Peter Jarling well knew what that could mean for him.
What in the world went through your mind? When you had actually sniffed a flask that now you find out what was in
Sure,
there.
I got a little shot of adrenaline, and yes, I worried. But this is no job for a hypochondriac. I mean,
Jarling was feeling healthy, but the monkeys at Hazelton Research were dying by the dozens. The company allowed the Army to take over its building and kill the remaining animals in an effort to keep the virus from spreading.
My group was the most vulnerable, there's no doubt about that.
Colonel Gerald Jacks, the head of USAMRIID's Veterinary Division, and Nancy Jacks' husband ran the operation.
Did you ever wonder as you were driving over to this place, driving by houses, and these people have no idea what's going on in that building?
Yeah, that was a concern. But the decision was made that we didn't want to arrive in spacesuits and create a panic situation in a suburb of Washington.
But by the time they did arrive to start their work, there was disturbing news. One of the monkey handlers was sick.
We were told that there was an employee who had exhibited some flu-like symptoms. And because that's one of the clinical signs of Ebola, it certainly heightened our resolve.
They knew what that virus was, and they understood the danger to the suburban population of Washington.
Over a period of days, the team killed close to 500 monkeys.
They had to give these monkeys lethal injections. And the needle can easily penetrate a spacesuit. And if the needle happens to have a little bit of Ebola blood on it, you're dead.
They sealed the building and decontaminated it by flooding it with formaldehyde gas.
And I think everybody in our team had that same sort of feel. But it's kind of an alien feel.
When the team was done, the Army was convinced nothing, not even Ebola virus, was left alive. But what about the people already exposed?
one of the early signs of this disease is fever, a high fever. And I took my temperature.
You did?
Sure I did.
Every day until you were sure?
Twice a day.
His temperature never changed. He never got sick at all. The animal caretaker who had the flu symptoms apparently really did have the flu. Although tests showed he and several other workers were infected with the Ebola virus, mysteriously, no one got sick.
None of them developed disease.
Why not?
Well, for reasons that we don't begin to understand.
This virus will turn on itself and form what we call shepherd's crooks.
All they know for sure is that this is a new strain of Ebola, deadly to monkeys, but apparently harmless to humans. They named it Ebola Reston.
Even now, if you had Ebola Zaire, the kind that kills people, next to Ebola Reston, the kind that doesn't, could you look in this microscope and tell?
No.
This is a negative stain of the Reston virus.
The harmless one, the one that doesn't kill people, right.
And by comparison, this is a similar preparation of Ebola Zaire. These viruses are indistinguishable.
There's no way to understand what the difference is.
That's right. You just touched on one of the great mysteries. There's no way that you can tell which virus is going to be virulent and which one is not.
We were just lucky.
Yes, we were. Could it happen again? Sure it could. Especially since we don't know how it got to that primate facility in the first place.
Ebola is cycling in some unknown reservoir of animals somewhere in the world. We have not seen the last of Ebola. Ebola will be back.
Channel 11 News. Update. Brought to you by Chrysler.
A very different looking Gaza Strip tonight. A new agreement that allows for Palestinian self-rule came into effect today. The story at 11.
10 years ago, the world's first Magic Wagon rolled off our Windsor production line, and they're still rolling, with over 4 million on the road today. Your local Chrysler dealer is celebrating Magic Wagon's 10th anniversary by offering the safety and value leader with dual airbags, side impact beams, air, V6, automatic 7-passenger seating, and more at this great 10th anniversary price. Be part of this great Canadian success story. Now at your local Chrysler dealer, a dealer you can believe in.
What's for dinner? What's for dinner? Got it. Hamburger helper lasagna. I'm gonna make a real good, feel-good meal. It's gonna have some good old family appeal. I'm gonna look in. It's no big deal. Hamburger helper makes a real good meal. Good meal.
Hot, home-cooked hamburger helper lasagna.
Makes a real good meal.
If you only knew what the future had in store. You'd never pick any carpet, but the ones made to take years of use without showing their age. DuPont approved Stainmaster carpets.
Well, could have been twins.
Stainmaster. Why trust the future to anything less?
This is the perfect time to try my new Polaroid Captiva.
Hey, where's the picture?
There's no picture?
How can it be a Polaroid camera if there's no picture? The Polaroid Captiva. The pictures stay in till you take them out.
Maybe if you shake it.
Yeah, shake the camera.
I mentioned that from Toronto because